So our presenter today is Jaclynn Cross, a graduate from the class of 2010 who studied English and Africana Studies. Today, Jaclynn is a dynamic business event strategist with nearly 20 years of experience supporting corporate and nonprofit organizations, friends, families, and family to deliver memorable experiences. Currently serving as managing partner of Bogues Group and project manager at the U.S. Green Building Council, Jaclynn's portfolio includes the internal and domestic conferences, high-touch stakeholder meetings, political fundraisers, community town halls, fashion productions, and more. And when she's not working to amplify marginalized voices, Jaclynn is listening to live music performances on YouTube, reading, practicing yoga, Pilates, spending time with family and friends, and trying new restaurants in her new residence of Charlotte, North Carolina. So Jaclynn, without further ado, happy to pass it off to you.
Thanks, Casey. That was good. I heard 20 years. I was like, wait, who's been doing events for 20 years? And I realized I have. I have. The funny thing about events is that we all touch them in some way, shape, or form throughout our lifetime. And so anybody can do them. I can do them. I'm going to show you how to do them. So welcome to my session today. We're going to have some fun. I hope you kind of got the vibe that I'm trying to set in our virtual environment. I'm excited to be here with you all. As Casey mentioned, I'm a project manager for the U.S. Green Building Council, and I'm also the managing partner for Bogues Group. I've organized events ranging anywhere from 5 people to 500 people. I've come up with some pretty cool concepts that are being deployed currently at U.S. Green Building Council to collect information from our community members and stakeholders about the new products and initiatives that we have coming down the pike. And also fun things like basketball camps, middle school basketball tournaments for the Charlotte-Mecklenburg County school system, and a host of other things. So I'm super excited to be here with you all today to just support my fellow bullets. Thanks for joining me. So this is our agenda for the day. The fun thing is you'll get to leave with a little playlist. So that will be my gift to you. You can download the playlist or stream it from Apple Music or Spotify. So I'll have some links for y'all. There's my little gift to you. But we're going to cover visioning. So how do you come up with your event concept? What are some of the key questions that you have as you start to plan? We'll talk about the actual planning process, the execution of your event, and how to close it out and wrap it up. But before we get to it, Casey gave me a really good idea of just in the chat, if y'all can just drop your favorite or most memorable event from your time at Gettysburg, and also anything that you're hoping to get out of this session today. So I want this to be interactive. Feel free to raise hands, but I will have some time later at the end for questions. Okay, so I'll give you some time to think about your favorite event. And in the meantime, I'm going to go ahead and launch a poll because I would love to see if anyone has an event that is going on in the next couple of months or if it is happening now. So if you can all complete the poll, I'll read the question aloud. Are you planning an event currently, or do you have one coming up in the next few months? Look at y'all. That's why y'all here. Everybody have an event. Okay. Okay. I'm going to give it some more time. All right. So the bulk of you are planning an event. So, okay. All right. Write your questions down or put them in the kit, go through them. But I'll start with the beginning. So we're going to start with Bruno Mars. That's what I like. And I would play it, but I just want to go through it because I want to answer your questions. So as you're starting to plan your event, you always want to start with what is the occasion, right? So why are you convening people? How much time do you have to plan it? What is your vision? with your event. So what does it look like? Like if you walked into your space, what does the ideal event look like? The event venue look like for you? Is it open concept? Is it like a warehouse and you need to bring in all tons of decor and pipe and drape and like all these things to jazz it up? Is it just a restaurant and like a private dining space? Because you can absolutely book a room and decorate it and have everyone there. So what does that look like? What themes align or are appropriate for your event type? So it's a birthday. Is it, the roaring 20s because your friend is turning 30 and like this is the last hurrah? Is it back to the 90s? Is it 2000s? Like I have a friend now who's actually going to a 2004 movie themed party because apparently they loved all the movies in 2004. And so that's their birthday theme. So you can make anything a theme. And then the most important thing is what's your budget? And you want to be as realistic as possible what your budget is going to be, and definitely try to do as much research as possible to find vendors that are competitive, but also can help you cut costs in places that won't compromise the integrity of your experience. So here are just a couple of tools that I use in the visioning process and also just the overall planning process. So for budgeting, I mean, I use Excel, and I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with how to um, build spreadsheets and do all the formulas and all those things. So there are absolutely tons of resources online that you can get budget templates for an event and all the different types of expenses that you might have. So for some events, you might be able to generate some revenue. So you might be looking for what's your sponsorship goal. So that's something that you want to account for as you're planning the expenses to see how much money you can actually get. Ideally, nobody wants to host an event with their own money, but sometimes you have to. And you have to think really strategically about how you're going to use those funds and spend those funds. So project management in a couple of my different lives roles, I've used a variety of project management solutions, which will help you kind of keep all the information flowing. It can be a very collaborative tool that you can use with your friends as you're coordinating. Maybe it's a bachelorette weekend or a bachelor party, and you just need all the moving parts. Somebody is assigned the giveaway, somebody is assigned the decor, somebody is assigned finding the house. So just kind of having all of those roles and responsibilities identified in some way will prove to pay dividends later down the line of the planning process. When it comes to themes and inspiration, I mean, we use social for everything, right? So TikTok is a great place to get some event ideas or themes or concepts of how you can organize. I'm sure y'all have seen the color parties where people put they wear a certain color and they'll bring snacks or they'll bring food that are on the same themes. So you can find some really cool concepts for parties. As far as invites go, Canva is absolutely amazing. It will give you some really great templates to start with that you can jazz it up however you want. You can add certain elements. You can upload your own personal photos and things of that nature. But it's not something that you can actually use to track your RSVPs. So I did add a couple of those options here as well. So paperless post is a really cool option. It has some free options, much like Evite, where you can use their stock templates, update it with all your information. You can customize it however you'd like, and really just enter your guest information. They'll send them a text message and they'll be able to RSVP, and you can broadcast messages as opposed to sending all of those group chain text messages. Like, I have too many group chats, and I'm sure nobody wants extra group chats if you don't have to. So Evite is a really great solution for that. And then just a couple of cool places that you can use for decor. Obviously, Amazon. You can get any and everything off of Amazon. Professional hack, maybe return it if you didn't work. You don't want it anymore. Maybe you can just return it and get your money back for a refund. I've been able to save some money a couple of times doing that, but that's a little secret I'm giving. Oriental Trading Company is also a really good option that I've used for like corporate events. and things that we have, like internal holiday parties and things of that nature. Just trying to find some really cool things that will come quickly and are priced pretty well. All right, so you've already figured out what your event is, you figured out your theme, you got all the things, and so now you actually have to get down to the planning of it all. So, oops, I'm back this way. Of the planning of it all. So I have a little timeline here for you that kind of outlines what you should be doing 4 to 6 months or a year out. So that first initial, you decided that you want to have an event. Let's start putting together a budget. Let's pick a date and 2 backup dates just in case it's not available at the venue that you prefer, but you want to keep it around the same time because it's time sensitive, right? Maybe it's a birthday, it's a retirement party, it's a bachelor party or anything like that. You want to have some backups where possible. You definitely want to pick your venue and come up with an inclement weather plan if that's, come up with your inclement weather plan, pick a hotel if you need to get a room block. So that's basically a large group of rooms that generally have the same rate, which you have ideally negotiated in some way, shape, or form if you can, to get it a little lower because you're given the hotel business. And one thing hotels have to have is beds and heads. So heads and beds. So as long as you can help a hotel out by filling their sleeping rooms, they should be able to cut you a deal. And then generally, if you're using a hotel as your event venue space, your room block will be tied to that and your food and beverage minimum. So the amount that you're supposed to spend in order for you to not have to pay like a room rental fee. That could be waived if you hit $5,000 or whatever that agreed upon minimum is. So that's 4 to 6 months or a year out. So that's like the high level things. Once you get to about 3 months out, so you've already selected your venue, you have your date, you know all of those things, let's go ahead and create an invite and figure out what kind of platform you want to use for RSVPs. You'll start to decide your activities and the types of entertainment. Are you going to have a DJ? Do you want a band? Are you doing a murder mystery? Do you need a murder mystery company? Do you want to do it yourself? So does it require an MC? So those are the types of things you want to be thinking about at 3 months out so you can start to find people that might fit within your budget. Along in tandem with that, you're going to plan your decor, you're going to pick out a color scheme and decide if you need any sort of plants in the space, and start to think about the supplies that you'll need as well as any vendors. So your photographer, if you want to do a recap video, because video is king. So if you want to have some video professionally done, that's something that you will want to decide sooner than later in your event planning process. Okay, and then 2 months out, you're finalizing your catering, your contract, your menus, and all of those things. You're sending your invites and finalizing how your room is going to be set up, any hotel arrangements, and then you're really starting to fine tune your program, if there is a program, and any of your audiovisual needs. So, do you need house sound in your venue space? Do you need to have a screen because you want to show a slide deck of photos? Is there a video that you want to play? Is it embedded in that PowerPoint? So those are some of the things that you want to think about when it comes to your program. And if there's any ceremonial items that you might need, a sash, a trophy, I don't know, if you're doing like the Dundies or something, you are going to need a trophy award to give out to your folks. And also you should be starting to think about any volunteers or support that you're going to need for the day of, because you want to flag them so they know that you're going to be expecting their help to either pick up items, set up items, break down things, and just be there as your support, because that teamwork makes the dream work in life, but especially in events. Like, it's all hands on deck. You need everybody to be aware of what their role is and also supportive and have a good attitude. So if you have it at the top, and everything else will fall into place. So then you're about 2 to 4 weeks out. Your invites should already have been out, and you're tracking RSVPs at that point. I love this acronym, KBYG. It's your know before you go email. So it's all of the information that you need about parking, about what to expect. If you want to go ahead and disclose the menu because maybe you haven't talked about dietary restrictions or you didn't consider that. You definitely want people to let you know if they're gluten-free, if they're keeping kosher, or any of those things that might negatively impact their experience if you didn't prepare for it. If you have any speeches, you want to kind of start writing them, maybe doing some bullets, reflecting on the occasion if that's necessary. You should be thinking about your seating chart as you're tracking RSVP. So is there anything you should consider as you're putting people next to each other, either at your wedding or at your rehearsal dinner or your birthday or any part of those, any sorts of those personal celebrations? And you also want to confirm the details with your vendors and draft what's called a run of show. And basically your run of show just outlines everything for the day. Like I like to call it a Bible. You could call it your Torah, call it whatever religious text you want, but it's the thing that you want everybody to execute by. It should be very detailed as far as what's going to be in your room, what your menu is going to be, so you can literally double check and verify that everything you communicated to your vendors, everything that you're paying for, everything that you're paying for is where it's supposed to be. I can't stress that enough because a lot of times you'll get on site and things just fall through the cracks because there's so many things happening. Your event staff is being spread very, very thin. So you want to make sure you have a handle, you have all your orders and all of the things so you could very easily say, hey, remember we talked about it, but you gotta say it nice because you want to make sure you have a good rest of your experience. But have your runner show. It will make everything so much easier. All right, so a week out, you're running through your runner show because it has all your deliveries, it has all of your timings. You're gonna print or use a digital seating chart. You'll have your guest list, you'll have your place cards, you'll have your table numbers and all of the things. You'll plan meetings with all of the folks who are supporting your event. Again, just to double check. Like that is the thing about events. You're double checking, triple checking, quadruple checking. Like people are gonna think you're crazy, but it will make your life so much better because you want to create the right vibe. You want to have the best experience possible because people are either gonna say really, really great things or they'll say really, really terrible things. And a lot of times when they say the terrible things, it completely overshadows all the great things and the great work that you really did and put all the effort that was put into your event. So over communication as much as possible. And then a week out, you're more than likely going to provide your final guarantees to your vendors. So your final head count on the number of people you expect to attend, so you have enough food and drinks and all the things. All right, so you've done all the planning and now you do it, right? So you want to arrive as early as you possibly can to allow for any missteps on anybody's behalf. It's much more stressful to be on your way or being late and things are falling apart because it just adds a whole extra level of stress. So I encourage you, any of your supplies, pack them early, pack them the night before, pack them a day before, just so you know that you've gone through your checklist. You have all of the things that you're going to need to execute your event. You'll get there immediately and check the room, make sure it's set up properly. You'll check in with the person who's responsible for your event or supporting you as the services coordinator, for example, and just work with them to resolve any issues. You'll do all your setup and decor and then test all of your sound and music and all the things. But one thing you have to remember, once it's all up and going, you gotta have fun and take your pictures because sometimes you can get distracted and all the hustle and bustle. So making sure you have some photos are super important and that you're in the photos. I know there's a lot of parents who are never in the birthday pictures because they're constantly running around and making sure that the space is nice and everybody's having a good time and everybody's okay. But definitely, 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 if you remember nothing else, stop and make sure that somebody photographs you at the event that you planned. All right. So we're wrapping up, and I'm going to talk a little bit about closeout, and then I'm going to open it up for any questions that y'all might have. So you definitely want to do thank you notes. I know it might seem old school or antiquated, but thank you notes are really thoughtful, and it's just a really great way to close out the loop for your event. You could do anything fun. So like Sydney's planning a conference, and when I do on-site emails, like it'll always have some kind of photo from the day and a quote or something like that. And so when it's all over, we'll do some kind of, call to action or some kind of thank you or something that was very specific to the group, so that it kind of carries on the sentiment and the environment. So it kind of keeps people together. You're going to finalize all of the billing. And sometimes that takes a really long time, especially with hotels, because one, they want you to pay sooner than later, but you need to go through that bill with a fine-tooth comb. Like if you ever contract with a hotel, go through the bill against all of the orders that you place, against your budget, and make sure that all of those lines are accurate, because they will try to sneak things in, just like your hospital bills. They'll try to sneak stuff in there that was not accurate, that you didn't approve, and things like that. So going through that very carefully is super critical, especially when it's your boss's money. It's a little it hit different when it's your boss's money. You want to make sure that you debrief on successes and areas of improvement. So what went really, really well, and what are some things that, okay, we could have done this a little better. Maybe it was a communication issue. Maybe it was the vendor's issue. Maybe it's not somebody we should be continuing to give business to for whatever reason. But what are some areas of improvement? Did you plan in enough time? Did you give enough reminders for your RSVPs? Did you send it out enough times? Did you send it out in advance? Like, what are some of those things that you might have been able to do better? And if it's applicable, survey your attendees. Like, get some feedback on your food selections, on the venue, on the timing, like literally the timing in the day, and also like within a month. Like, did that day work for you? So there's all types of things that you can get feedback on to make your events more seamless moving forward, but also just overall better experiences. All right. So that was a lot. I'm seeing some things come in the chat and some questions. So I think, Casey, you and me want to take these? How we want to do this?
It would help if I turned my sound on. Yeah, this is great. So I would say first, if people have questions, what questions do you have left that are specific to the events that you're planning? I saw Sydney posted about the annual conference that she's planning for her NGO. Rain was posting about a 501c3 cultural organization that posts a lot of cultural events with low budgets and very tight timelines. So share your questions in the chat and we'll make sure to flag them with Jaclynn. But to start, Jaclynn, I'd be curious to hear your answer to the question that you asked everyone on this call. What were some of your more memorable Gettysburg experiences?
Yeah, when you asked me that earlier, I was like, well, I think I missed almost every Spring Fest between 2006 and 2010. I was involved in lots of clubs and also a member of Sigma Gamma Rho Sorority Incorporated on campus. So we had our regional conference. So I could never make it to Spring Fest. But I will say the BSU used to plan a step show, and I know that the current BSU still has one. The step show used to be so much fun for me because all these schools would come on campus, and it took a lot of promotional efforts of like across colleges and just letting people know that it was happening and like to come and participate and also to just come hang out with us. And y'all know, being in Gettysburg, you just in Gettysburg. So if you're not, if you want to be in the mix of things and you want to see a city and you want a little bit of extra It was a really cool time on campus when I was on
Okay, that makes me think of how rewarding and validating it must be when you're doing all of the work and all of like the herding cats, for lack of a better description for it. You see it finally come together and you can just enjoy it for a few moments. That's such a validating feeling.
Yeah, and Casey, literally, that's my favorite thing about events. Like going from the concept to execution and seeing all the people in the space and really enjoying all of the hard work that went into it. That's like the best part about it. Um,
We got a
let's see.
few questions in the
Yeah,
chat.
cool. So Allie has one about dealing with media and how far in advance you should notify a news outlet. So I think I'm gonna tag team you in for this too, Casey, because you so if you feel like I missed that, you correct me. And
We should be good.
yeah. So generally, like 4 to 6 weeks out, you want to notify a media outlet. There's so many competing stories and things, so you want to make sure that your pitch is compelling, but also like basically you want to write the story for the journalist because everybody wants their placement. So as much information about your event that you can share that makes it unique, that makes it interesting, that ties into a larger story or some other community issue that's going on, that would be the best way to solicit media.
Definitely. And then I would say outside of that follow up, yeah, reach out 4 to 6 weeks in advance. I feel like the feedback I hear most often from reporters is that they would have loved to cover this. They just didn't get enough time. And usually we'll follow up like maybe a week or so in advance. Um, if you follow up, you have a better shot of reaching them because so much is just getting in front of the right reporter at the right time with the right story. So very much try to think through why would an external reader care about this? What's the interesting element for them? What makes it newsworthy? But then don't be afraid to have some round of follow up. Not so much that you feel like you're spamming them. My rule of thumb is usually have one follow up depending on how far in advance, do a final follow up, so 3 rounds of outreach, either right before or one that's afterwards, but make sure that with each round of follow up, you're continuing to add value and that you're not just, hitting them up with the same message again and again and asking them if now they're more interested.
Mhm.
But yeah, 4 to 6 weeks should be plenty of time to get in front of them and start to get their attention.
And the other thing also is you can also always get post-event coverage, right? So like when you've actually, if it's a fundraising event or if there was a big announcement that was made at the event, like that would also be an opportunity to potentially get some media around your event.
Definitely. And then I think my only other last points, context. A lot of reporters are very desperate to get additional context from people about why things matter. So if you can look at the larger landscape and say this is unique or different or distinct because it goes a long way. And then a lot of reporters, especially coming out of the pandemic, which probably won't surprise anyone, they're looking to do more in-person reporting. So if you can invite them to actually experience the event and be part of it, you might get a little bit more of a response from them than just a, hey, I'm doing this quick thing. Can you put a note on your website about it? So seeing where you can invite them to be in person, it's a little bit more of an experience, a little more that you have to coordinate there, but you'll get a much more meaningful relationship with the reporter and better coverage coming out of it. That said, we've got a few more questions. One from Sydney, if you're good for it, Jaclynn. What's the best way to be discerning about selecting vendors and anticipating who will be the best fit?
That's a great question. And Sydney, I know you work for an NGO, so I'm sure you probably are, I'm not going to assume, but you might have some issues with cash flow. So one thing about vendors, and this is my general rule of thumb, I don't do business or repeat business with people I don't like. That's just how people do business. Like if you don't enjoy talking to the person, or if you can't find some kind of connection with them, like that's for me, I can't do it because if I can't relate to you when things are going haywire and we can't keep it together, then this is going to be a bigger challenge. But most importantly, you want to think about overall budget. How does this impact your budget? Are they within what you projected? What is the quality of their work? What type of references do they have? How professional are they in their interactions with you electronically? How professional are they on the phone? Like, what kind of vibes are you getting from them? Because what kind of vibe do you want for your event? And you want to make sure that your vendors align with that. If that doesn't help, Sydney, you can unmute yourself or put anything follow up in the chat. But I hope that helps.
That is helpful. I guess like I had a really good conversations with like one of my vendors and they did seem really professional and they did seem like they fit really well. And I was kind of in between two options that both seemed really good. But then post event, they weren't able to deliver what like we asked from them. So now we're looking for a refund and it's kind of a mess. But they just seemed like both really good options. And I was kind of like, it was up to me to decide. And I don't like making these big calls, but that's what I have to do. And so yeah, like I just kind of went with them because they did seem like the best option. And then they weren't able to deliver, but also I'm not available during the event to like hold their hand and kind of check up on what's going on because I got clean up on aisle 5, 6, and 7 too.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, Sydney, you gotta trust your gut. Like, just make the decision, and whatever happens, happens, right? So I'm literally in a situation right now. I'm not very comfortable with the person that I'm hiring to do photography at a conference that I have in Santa Fe, New Mexico, in a couple of weeks. He didn't have a real contract. I had to I had to use one of our contracts for it. It was a lot of back and forth. It just wasn't a whole lot of infrastructure. And sometimes with like photography and things like that, it's really difficult when you're working with an individual versus an entity. Creatives can be a bit of a challenge to work with. So ultimately, look at your budget, what aligns with the budget, who looks the best from a professionalism standpoint. And the other thing I would consider is who else are there any of my peers in my industry that have also used this individual and how was their experience? So if you can like really planners depend on planners. So I would definitely encourage you to make good use of a network of event planners. Look into PCMA, which is the event. Don't get me, I'm not going to tell you acronyms because letters mean things. But PCMA and MPI are two of the trade associations for meeting professionals. So I encourage you to connect with them and see what local chapters are available so you can see what resources there are for you that can better support you in your decision making.
And it sounds like we're almost building a little network here of event planners as well.
I'm saying it's given. It's given. Let me know where y'all are and connect with me. I'll make sure you get my information here. I'm happy to serve as a resource.
So, I'm gonna say I don't know, Sydney, if there's any other follow-up you have there, or if we're good to move on to the next question. But we do have another one from Claire. Any advice on how to approach sending out a late stage invite to events? And Jaclynn, I'm not sure if we'll need additional follow-up or clarity from Claire on that, or if you feel like you can tackle that as it is.
I'll tackle it, but we're in a safe space. So Claire, well, I feel that I've created a safe space. I can't assume that I have. So if I didn't, I apologize. But Claire, feel free to unmute yourself to follow up if this doesn't help. Make it seem so special. It was an exclusive event and we just got some extra space and we would love to have you join us. Like put a spin on it. It's not, oh girl, we ain't forget you. We just didn't have space and now we want you to come. So you can definitely spin it like that if you can. But if you got follow-up, I'm here.
No, that's really helpful. So it's more of I do corporate events for an internal company. So like a PE owned company. And I'm still waiting to get the guest list approved from the CEO. So I know, but the event is coming up like really soon. So I'm in that position where I need to get it sent out, but it's going to be like 2 weeks from the event.
Yeah, that's probably the best way to do it. I've been in those positions before and like you could do one of two things, and I'm not going to tell you to throw anybody under the bus, but you could, and nobody will probably ever find out. But if it's that super internal, you might not want to do that. It just depends. It depends on your audience. It depends on your audience.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. The first one, like the exclusive thing, I'm gonna do that.
Okay.
Thank you.
I love taking that positive spin on things that otherwise might be a challenge and finding that twist to make it seem like something that everyone wants to be involved in.
Yeah, because event planners are magicians. Like everybody's gonna ask you to make something happen and pull it out of the booty. And either you can or you can't. You're gonna come up with something. So
I love that.
just try to make it as positive as you can.
I love that. All right. Well, for making more magic, we got a question from Jesse. For a more casual event with a limited budget, like a birthday party, and I'm planning my own birthday party coming up here soon, so I second this question. But what do you recommend focusing on with your budget? Decor, food, activities?
So this is a good question because y'all, I just planned my own 35th birthday party
Look
and
at
I
that.
was balling on a budget. Okay, I was balling on a budget. So I focused more on I did a combination, right? So I planned a back to the 90s party because I was turning 35. I wanted everybody to dress up as their favorite 90s TV sitcom character. So that already kind of brought a little something interesting, a little twist. The people gonna be a decor, like Beyonce said, you are the visual. So where you can, like, do the visuals. Party City is really great for like quick little pop-up things. So I would definitely encourage you to go look at Party City, see what little packets that they have for your decor, because it could be pretty inexpensive. Food is important, and especially if you're gonna have people drinking alcohol, you gotta feed them. You have to feed them. So if you don't want to feed people, don't put it over dinner time. Don't put it over a meal time. Like push it back to 9 o'clock because you're not feeding nobody dinner at 9 p.m. It's giving charcuterie boards. It's giving, like you're not doing a full baked meal. I did tacos because who don't love tacos? So you could go to Cordova, you could go to a little authentic taco spot or any kind of local restaurant, do a little short catering order, something, plan your number of people. You could say maybe you're gonna spend $200. I did not spend $200 on tacos, and I still have way left over. So you can make some things shake if you think creatively. Just think about what you like, honestly, and see how you can take that on a bigger scale. Like you're not gonna have a birthday party at Cordova, but why y'all think they had birthday parties at McDonald's and Burger King when we was kids? Like, I'm just saying, make your practices work for you.
That's amazing. Yeah, I love it. And it ties back to your original advice about like identifying the theme and like how you want to vision the event.
Mhm.
I think I found a lot of cute decor just at the Dollar Tree. It took me back to some of my college days, but you decorate it up, you upscale it a little bit.
That part.
But for my more casual events, I'll do a little bit more of that and then focus more on the food and everything else because you can, play around with decor and make it look nicer. But
Yep,
food, it's either good or it's bad. And if I'm
absolutely,
cooking it, it's bad.
absolutely. Activities wise, like to Casey's point, y'all, game night? Who don't love a good game night, right? And you can have everybody bring a game night, bring a game, and y'all can pick a game for everybody to play, or you could do little pockets of games. So, and just get creative with your activities also, because to Casey's point, you could go to the Dollar Tree, y'all could design wine glasses, you could paint this, there's so many things that you can do and not break the bank. The dollar store, the Dollar Tree is your friend, okay? Is your friend.
So let's see. Our next question is from Rain. Any advice on how to advertise an event, particularly when your organization might not have a really large online presence?
Yes. So in that instance, I would absolutely encourage you to either leverage your stakeholders as much as possible. So, for example, if you are, Raina, you're at a nonprofit.
Yeah, I'm on the board of a nonprofit.
Okay. So for that, I would definitely encourage you to leverage your board members, your fellow board members, and have them promote things to their networks. A lot of 501c3s have to have working boards because they're starting early and they need as much support from their board members as possible to fundraise and increase awareness. So I would definitely leverage your board members. I will also suggest finding organizations that align with your organization but have a broader reach. Because there's a value add, you're bringing more people to them, and you're bringing something that adds value to their community as well. That's almost like a win-win situation. So there's tons of like community listserv boards, and just things that you can put your information on. What else? I mean, press releases are always really good, but you have to be really strategic in how you distribute them because you want it to get it to the right people, but you also want to make sure that it's something that's newsworthy as well that will make a journalist bite. And or get your leadership in front of, a journalist so that you can raise awareness that way. Those are the first few things that come to mind for me. Happy to toss it to Casey because I know you also have experience in this.
Thank you. Yeah, this worked out really well. So I would say I've seen a lot of media outlets start to move away from just covering and announcing that an event is happening, because for a lot of them, it's not necessarily newsworthy in and of itself, depending on its, openness or access to the general public. So they've been moving more towards having community calendars and having some of those community listservs and community boards that you were talking about, Jaclynn. So I would say in some cases, like just check to see what they're doing. Radio stations, a lot of times they will do PSAs on different types of events coming up as like a community calendar thing. But yeah, don't be afraid to leverage some thought leadership where there is a core theme, a mission, a goal, objective of whatever your organization is trying to accomplish with that event, and using that more so than the event itself as the hook or the tie-in to get your senior leadership in front of reporters, because odds are a lot of times they're more interested in the theme itself and less than the fact that there's an actual event coming up. But yeah, take a look at your stakeholders, take a look at like who you're trying to get in front of, and allow those audience, usage, like how they're consuming information to help dictate how you want to get in front of them as you continue to build your online presence, because ultimately that'll be your best service.
I absolutely agree with that. If you can come up with like the ideal type of person who's gonna attend your event, like what are they doing? What does that person look like? Like who are the different buyers that would be coming to your event, and thinking through that.
Absolutely.
That is super helpful from both of you. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. I was gonna say, I think we're caught up on questions for now, but we still have time. So if anyone else has any more questions to drop in the chat, happy to keep working our way through them. Otherwise, Jaclynn, we've talked a lot about different types of events, about some of the specifics of different events that people are planning. Is there anything that stands out to you now that you have a better sense of what people are working on that you'd want to reiterate or make sure that they knew as they start to approach their event planning?
Absolutely. So I would say for the professional meeting planners or meeting professionals we have in the room, I can't encourage you enough to go into PCMA, go into MPI, attend their events. They have lots of free ones. I'll put it in the chat. PMP, CMA, MPI. They have lots of like continuing education that you can get through them. And also the EIC, the Events Industry Council. They're basically like one of the governing bodies for meeting professionals. So leverage those as much as you possibly can. There are some affinity trade associations as well, like the National Association of Black Meeting Professionals. And it's a really great combination. All of these organizations are really great combination of suppliers. So like your vendors, your hotel folks, your convention and convention visitors bureaus folks, like it's a really great network of people. So I encourage you to do that and explore the education that's available to you because there's tons of really great resources. For the lay people who are just, regular folks planning mom's birthday or your friend's birthday party, get creative. Like you can do so many really fun things without having to break the bank, right? So like, how can you move furniture around in your place to like make the space seem different? Like, how can you leverage a park, right? Because like if you're having a birthday party for your child, like you can absolutely go to your local Parks and Rec and say, hey, I want to book a little pavilion, and it could be a very nominal fee. So just thinking about ways that you can transform a pretty regular space to something that can be super beautiful, but also simple and create a really great memory. So that would be my thing. Like, don't put yourself in a box because you got $5. Because like you can make $5 work.
We do have one more question. What is the best way to build a standard of procedure if the event changes a lot year over year?
Sydney, you are in my brain. So I think we need to talk after this. So I will say this. You know that it's going to change, but you have to basically deploy agile project management strategies. Like, don't think of yourself as just a meeting professional. You are a project manager because you're literally like tracking a project from soup to nuts. Like, you have to figure out the strategy, you got to figure out all the things, and things might change along the way because, oh, I didn't think about this when we were first planning. And now I think I want to do it. And now you, Sydney, have to figure out how to make this work in this thing that we already agreed on. So what you know, and you don't know what you don't know. So your standard operating procedure should encapsulate everything that you know. It should allow you to be flexible and to add other things in and to be a little nimble. But really, you have to understand, how do you best work? How does your team best like communicate, right? What is the best way to communicate the plan to the people and then allow for any of the changes? You can unmute. I feel like I'm staring in a black hole. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. Here, let me let me come in. I'm sorry. Definitely. And I mean, I am like building an SOP and like a big Gantt chart timeline like to use for the staff, and just to try to be, yeah, like make things replicable so that like, you know, in the future they can use that. And I have put in everything that I do know, but like our event is regional. So like last year was in Europe, this year it was in Atlanta, next year it's going to be in Africa. And like sourcing vendors in Atlanta, I had never been there, but like I can function in the US because I kind of know a couple things about how things work. But like sourcing vendors in Africa is just going to be a totally different story. So I don't know how to like, right, but I want the standard of procedure to continue to be useful and like to be replicable for every year's conference. Sorry, this is so specific to me, and yeah, but yeah, so like I've been building that, but I just feel like I want it to start using it, but I feel like it's never going to be done because, you know, I might have to add in, yeah, like what's going to be useful to Morocco that's not useful to Atlanta, you know.
Yeah, so I mean, one lens that you can use as you're thinking about it is like, what is the Europe SOP? What is the US SOP, right? Are there vendors in the US that you could leverage that, you know, are global entities that could support you in Europe and in Africa, right? So again, as girl, they're gonna keep moving stuff and it's all gonna change. So like for real, like you just have to figure out what is the standard, right? What is the standard expectation from the organization? And then you can kind of determine what vendors are going to best align with the organization standard, because that standard is not going to change.
That's a really great point, that of all of those standards, the brand standards, the company standards are not going to change. And if I can share just a fun insight that might give all of us a little bit of a laugh. I previously worked at Gettysburg College after I graduated, and I served on the commencement planning committee for every year that I worked there. All right, so you know what I'm talking about. We had this massive document that was our standard operating procedure every year without fail. The event itself does not change that significantly, but every year without fail, we had new updates, new changes to it, particularly when it came through our crisis, our emergency response planning, down to the point where we had different emergency plans for every scenario up to and including a hive of bees invading commencement and having to cancel in the middle of the event. And we had all of these plans ready to go, communications, like everything planned that each year we kept updating. And then the pandemic happened and we did not have a plan for that type of an event. So all of your best planning, you're going to continue to change and, you know, iterate that year over year, even if it's a very, you know, consistent event. And I think to really tie it back to Gettysburg, it really does make me think of my favorite Eisenhower quote, that planning is everything, but plans mean nothing. That you can do all the planning that you want, but in the actual moment, all of your plans, all the best laid plans don't really mean a whole lot. So doesn't mean it's not important to plan. It is incredibly important, but it means all of the work that we put into it, it's all going to change in the moment. So it just helps us to be better able to pivot and to adapt as we go. So that's my fun Gettysburg insight, but also you got to always tie it back to either Eisenhower or Lincoln, wherever we can.
No, it's so true. It's so true.
To say, I'm not seeing anything more in the chat, and we are almost at time. So, Jaclynn, I will let you wrap up however you'd like to. I don't know if you have outro music ready for us, or if there's anything else you want to add to kind of wrap it up.
Well, I will say this. I told y'all that I had a gift for you. So you are welcome to scan the QR code and access the playlist. It is open and available. You can use it. If you all would like a copy of the PowerPoint, I believe it will be given to you, but if not, you're welcome to shoot me an email and connect with me at any point. But it was such a pleasure being here with y'all. I wasn't sure how to best prepare, but I think we did good. Y'all give me some emojis to tell me how good it was, or if it was bad, you could give me bad emojis. I could take a thumbs down. My feelings won't be hurt. All right, y'all had a good time. I appreciate it. Yeah, so y'all have my information. I appreciate y'all joining me today. I love giving the gift of time. So thank y'all for joining me. And if there's anything I can ever do to help a bullet, hit me up. I'll help a bullet.
That is awesome. Thank you so much, Jaclynn. And thank you everyone for joining. This was a really great conversation and I appreciate everyone's engagement.
Thank you so much.
Bye.